Good morning, Charlie. How are you?
Doing well. I'm a little tired, but I've got enough caffeine in my veins. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, let's go. Let's rock. Okay. Charlie, what a wild season and night this was for you. Could you just talk about how you're feeling and seeing the reaction now that everybody has seen all this?
Man, I mean, it's tough to put into one feeling, one emotion. It's a lot at once, just like it was out on the island. I mean, what a roller coaster, what a wild ride this season was, and it was so fun to watch it back. And I felt like it was a great finale and a great end of the season. So it was awesome to watch back. It's also watching back some pretty painful, pretty,
Yeah.
tough moments, looking at myself be a sad, dejected puppy.
Hmm.
Again, I couldn't see
Charlie
myself.
was the dog.
I was, the dependable dog that
Yeah.
ended up being very sad. Yeah.
Well, I want to give you your flowers in terms of the game that you played because I thought it was very, very impressive. You really demonstrated a knack for the strategic. You had good social relationships. You won challenges. You beat challenge beasts at times. And so I thought it was just a very, very well-rounded game. Do you feel like that a game like yours might be better suited for the longer 39-day game versus the 26? You're a marathoner.
Yeah.
26 days is a sprint.
That's true. That's true. That's what I always tell people. If you look at the marathon world record holders, they're not jogging. It's fast and steady wins the race. But it's a good question. I do think so. Honestly, I think that's more just like my personality and like my strengths too, like is sort of being able to focus. And I mean, you saw in the after show, like I lost the most weight out there out of anyone, but I mean, I think, I'm not going to name names, but I think there were some people that maybe had a little bit less composure than me, even in those conditions. So I was able to really keep my cool. I think that was one of my huge strengths. So I mean, I actually I don't know, but would have definitely carried a lot stronger over 39 days. I think I would be definitely advantaged by, having people crumble a little bit more around me. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it would have. I think I played I would guess I maybe say like a clinical game. Like I was, kept my threat level very low. I do think I had a lot of control over who was going home at the same time. So I do think that would lend itself to a longer game as well. I mean, I think it worked decently over 26 days too.
Yeah.
Not quite good enough, but no, that's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about that.
How do you come to grips? I know you got an amazing grip strength with, okay, well, the problem with Charlie was just not enough flash there. Really would have liked to have seen maybe like a flashier move on the resume versus Kenzie, who, wow, what a great social game, amazing relationships. How do you come
Yeah.
to grips with okay, well, what else did I have to do?
Honestly, it's tough. It's tough. And part of me is wondering, like if I made a flashier move, would it really have mattered?
Hmm.
Just for example, an easiest example would probably be, if I set myself into fire, because apparently that is a very flashy move these days. Clearly, on the show, you saw I had somewhat of a different way of thinking about it. But it's so hard to know because, juries are very, very hard to predict. That's
Yeah.
honestly the biggest takeaway from it all. I actually think at Final Tribal there were more gameplay moments that I brought up. I do think, in most people's minds and talking to jurors after the game, I sort of won the strategic game battle with Kenzie. So I don't know. Maybe obviously you can always add more in that category, but I don't know if that's even the same lane that I lost in, so if I had, more resume moves, I don't know if it would have even changed it. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Can you talk about with the fire making? I normally would not advocate for somebody to go into the
Yeah.
Final Four fire making, but it did seem like that Liz was going to have some problems. And I know you, with your grip strength, it seemed like that the fire was still going to be something that might have come easy for you. I know
Yeah.
you didn't want to gamble, but in this one instance of going up against Liz, was it tempting?
It's an interest. So I'll tell you a story. So I obviously, in hindsight, I think I would have wiped the floor with both of them in fire. I don't know if they'd said how long that challenge went on for, but part of the reason I started giving advice is that it was like painfully long, to the point where I was like, he's gonna bring out matches. It took so long, which also I was like, the jury was like, it seemed like upset with them that they couldn't make fire. So that's why I was so shocked at Maria's answer that she was like, oh, it was the fire in her eyes and the challenge. I was like, okay.
Right.
um, it wasn't glinting, the fire, because it wasn't being made. But you know, sorry, I don't mean to throw shade, but uh so I did think, I was like, why gamble? Fire can be so unpredictable. And
Yeah.
then there was actually a moment I was like bouncing back and forth between Kenzie and Liz, and I actually went to go see Liz. And for the first, like, it was the first time I went and saw her, and she had like a roaring fire going. So I was like, oh, Liz is cruising. And I don't think it spooked me necessarily, but I didn't have the same perception that maybe Liz had of herself, that she was terrible at fire. But also another component of my strategy, which, the last thing I watched was, Jam Jam win, and how he helped Carson in the fire making challenge. And that was like, seemed like a huge reason he got Carson's vote. So I was doing that with both Kenzie and Liz, and that was sort of how I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm maybe getting myself a chance at a direct jury vote, and I think it really honestly helped me get Liz's vote in the end, because I helped her learn how to build like a teepee and actually build the fire up. And she was saying like, like, you were my miracle, like thank you so much. So I viewed it as, I was playing it as successfully as I could. Yeah.
So I want to go back to that final tribal council. Could you tell at all during final tribal council that the vibes were off with Maria?
It was hard to tell, and honestly, I can't tell if, Survivor production like tells the jury to kind of like give people a little bit of like a stone face, because it felt like that throughout the whole game. I don't know if they were just upset, which is the other alternative explanation. Um, you know, maybe it wasn't as warm as I was expecting, but I wasn't putting like a crazy amount of stock into her exact facial expressions. But especially watching it back too, no, it definitely, maybe I should have picked up on more. But honestly, I didn't expect her to hand me a vote for free. But I did really think I had her vote locked down. And, I thought, maybe she just wants me to, earn it or whatever. I even think back to Malcolm and Denise. Like,
Yeah.
Malcolm pushed Denise hard in his question, at Final Tribal Council. So, I wasn't expecting her to be like, Charlie, I'm voting for you, publicly at Final Tribal or anything like that. But, maybe there were some signs I should have seen.
Yeah, because the thing I think that has been confusing for people is that a lot of the precedent is either, okay, I'm going to give my ally a hard time at the final tribal council, like Malcolm with Denise, like Trish with Tony, but in the
Yep.
end, I'm going to vote for them. Or like a Sue Hawk, sort of like come in scorched earth, right away, you've lost my vote. I'm going to dress you down. It seems
Right.
like that this was a surprise, and then that she didn't tip you off. And then in the voting booth, ultimately, that's where the surprise came.
Yes, yeah, that is really how I felt. I didn't, and I gave a very long emotional answer about. I don't think they showed it, about Maria, and really giving her flowers in her game, and saying why felt I had to take her out, how I moved those pieces against her, and really just singing her praises at the same time, explaining my game. And I thought that landed very well. Um, so yeah, it was a big surprise. Yeah.
Looking back at this long relationship over 24 days in the game, is there something that you feel like that you could have handled differently?
Um, Man, it's tough. Maybe. maybe one moment which maybe stands out because the very almost the very first thing Maria asked me after the game was like, "When did you start gunning for me?" And then I learned that it's actually an interesting moment. Back on the Tiffany vote, a major piece of my strategy that wasn't shown was in order to get Tiffany not to play her idol. I basically say to Tiffany, "Let's use this to get Maria out later."
Yes.
I had told Tiffany that Maria wanted her out. We were strategizing very closely. I was very much nurturing that relationship with Tiffany. So that's a big reason why, and I think Tiff talked about it in her exit press, why she didn't play her idol. At Pondy, Tiff was very pro Kenzie, very pro Kenzie. Understandably. Heck, I wish my number one did that. Um, and I think, and I've heard that, Tiffany basically said, he was coming for you for a while, and that like blindsided Maria. And, I, of course, explained to her right away, Maria, I said that so Tiff wouldn't play her idol, so that move could go off without a
Mhm.
hitch. But I don't know if that, did something in her brain, but I couldn't have predicted that because she came independently after me. So I didn't think that any sort of information about, me also playing the game hard should have swayed her vote. But I have been told at Pondy that, that apparently did have an impact, but I don't think I ever
Okay. Interesting. So, Charlie, now you do have this story of that you went so deep into the game. It was just one vote away from you ultimately winning. I'm wondering, like, is there a possibility for redemption? Are you open to returning for more Survivor potentially in the next couple of years?
Oh man, are they doing a returning season? I haven't heard anything about that. So um no, I listen, Survivor's like it's like torture, but it's also, torture in a good way. I'd play the game again 100%. Some of the highest highs out there. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Like putting together blind sides and oh my gosh, I had a good time, even though it was really, really freaking painful in the end. But yeah, definitely hungry for more. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, Charlie, I'm dying to have a longer conversation about all of this at some point in the future. So I hope that we can work that out. But again, congratulations. I just really thought you had a stellar game this season and wish you nothing but the best outside the game. And feel free anytime you want in our conversations to use as many Taylor Swift references as you want.
Oh, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I'll have to think of some, but I appreciate the free license there.
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Charlie, all the best to you. Take care. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Bye.